Okay everyone, revelation time. I don't have much respect for audio manufacturers that are releasing several products per month because I know some of those units will be buggy, laggy, unresponsive, or just plain bad sounding. I have a much higher respect for audio manufacturers that are releasing products once or maybe 2 times per year, or maybe just a single product per 2 years time, because I know they'll have all the time to test everything, to run hundreds of tests, to run hundreds of measurements, and even listen to them for a couple of times. Today I'll be talking about such audio manufacturer, which I have a much higher respect, and I do believe they're offering some of the nicest hi-fi bargains of today. This is the Aune Audio S9C DAC preamp and headphone amplifier that costs $700 or 760 euros here in Europe, having several features that you won't find even in 1 kilowatt units, and let's talk about that. Let's start with the build quality. What we see is a single block of aluminum carved on CNC machines with 2 plates attached to its front and back. I already experienced Aune products multiple times, and if you ever tried their S8, S6 Pro or R7 Pro, then S9C feels very much the same, having a timeless, quite unique and cool looking case. It has rounded edges all around, which I personally like. The only thing that slightly bothers me are those short 3mm rubber feet. It gets mildly warm after an hour of use, and in their stead I would use taller rubber feet, which will help with heat dissipation in the long run. Now, here's the cool part. Please show me one audio manufacturer that bundles metallic remote controls with their $700 products. This is very cool. This is something that I really appreciate. This is a lifesaver, especially in a stereo setup. I appreciate things like this very much. As for controls, we have a 4-pin XLR balanced output, another 4.4mm balanced output, and a regular 1/4-inch headphone jack. A big monochrome display can be found in the middle, which will show all the important stuff as the volume level, selected input, output, and working mode, and we have a massive volume knob to its right. On its back, we have the usual RCA and XLR analog outputs, and a couple of digital inputs as AAC, optical, coaxial, and USB. A Bluetooth antenna socket is also present, and a 10 MHz clock input, just in case you want to further increase its performance with external clock generators, like their SC1 or SC1 Pro, which uses higher grade oven-controlled crystal oscillators. Under its hood we have 2 flagship grade ES9068 DAC chips of ESS Technologies, one used per channel for a higher channel separation and for a lower channel crosstalk. Also, they paralleled 2 channels of each of those 4 channels for a lower noise floor and for a higher dynamic range, and I'm sure they try to squeeze basically maximum performance out of the silicon. What's more interesting is that they actually developed their own PLL and clock generator, which is actually pretty amazing. Not a lot of companies have the facilities and the technology to make their own PLL core, so that is actually very impressive. The cool stuff doesn't end here, because Aune Audio went with a fully discrete amplifier stage consisting of several JFET transistors, which are forming 4 amplifier modules for a fully differential and fully balanced signal input to output, offering up to 5.5 watts of power per channel, which in theory should drive all and everything. Another thing that I'm very excited about is the power supply. Going with a custom 50-watt transformer, which is regulated with plenty of voltage regulators and also filtered with electrolytic capacitors. And I'm very happy about this because nowadays not a lot of units have linear power supplies. Most of them already moved to switching mode power supplies, but I'm an old timer. I still enjoy seeing linear transformers. Even without listening to it, I see a lot of audiophile grade components, and that makes me very happy because usually a great sound starts with a great component selection. Alright guys, this is pretty much it, so let's hit some eardrums. First thing, after powering on the unit, you need to take this remote control and press this wave-like button once, and instantly, voila, you'll get a much better sound. The noise floor will get lower, you'll feel that you have a much better blackness somehow, a much better note separation, a bigger soundstage, there is a better transparency, so the sound is better and it's an immediate change. You don't need several seconds or minutes to readjust to the new sound, it's simply better. You are basically changing from mode 1 to mode 2, which is forcing its internal clocks to work at higher accuracy, so basically improving its DAC section. What truly surprised me was not its transparency, its detail retrieval, its cleanness, because I was already expecting that. But what surprised me was its effortlessness, how easygoing, how natural, and how even organic it sounded, because usually such silicon ES9068 is not sounding like that. But of course, with custom PLLs, with custom clocks, with linear transformers, with fully discrete amplifier stage, you can change the sound of that stock Saber sound, and that is exactly what Aune Audio did. Actually, this S9C doesn't sound at all like a topping made or SMSL made DAC with the same silicon. It's very different. It's more organic. It has a better flow. Everything is just pouring more naturally, something that I cannot say about most of those topping or SMSL units. The sound is more at peace this time around. It's not forcing you, it's more effortless, and it sounds pretty much the same via its headphone jacks and via its XLR and RCA outputs. So you can use it as a standalone DAC in a stereo setup and it will offer you pretty much the same performance. This effortlessness isn't something new for me because all past units by Aune Audio were sounding pretty much the same. The only difference is that S9C is right now more technical, more holographic sounding, clearer sounding in a way, but it's exactly as effortless like the old S6 Pro, S7 Pro, so the family resemblance is very strong with this one. I know Aune Audio pretty well, they're very crazy about measurements. They have long development times, about 2 to 3 years, and that was really the case with S9C. But after exchanging emails for a couple of years now, it was clear to me that besides being great audio engineers, they also love listening to music. And that is really what differentiates Aune Audio from a lot of audio manufacturers out there, because everything needs to measure well, but also it needs to sound right, natural, smooth. And that is really what happens at Aune Audio. They have the right recipe for a great sound. If you leave the unit working overnight, and if you do that for 4 nights, you'll observe that besides that amazing flow where everything flows naturally without any kind of trace of listening fatigue or brightness, you will also observe that the bass notes will change their faces from shy, cute, obedient creatures to some scary monsters. And that feels like a joke, but it's not really, because the bass, the transit response, dynamics will improve quite a lot after a few hours, a few days of use. And once again, I'm reminding you that this is a fully discrete JFET amplifier that draws power from a linear transformer. And I do believe that all those dynamics, punchy dynamics, are coming exactly from there. And at $700 US, it's really hard beating a fully discrete amplifier that draws power from a linear transformer. That is my honest opinion. What feels a little bit unusual with S9C versus some op-amp based amplifiers is the power output. For example, op-amp based amplifiers at 5.5 watts of power, they might start clipping with low sensitivity headphones like Hyphaman for example, lower that bass energy and just shrink the stage somehow, but that didn't really happen with S9C on the Hyphaman. Even at close to maximum power, S9C wasn't really clipping, it wasn't limiting dynamics, it wasn't slowing down, the bass was still hitting me hard, and all my electronic tunes were still trying to beat the shit out of me. What I want to highlight is that dynamics won't be a problem on this unit. Moving on to power output, this is where it again impresses me. So with 5.5 watts of power per channel, this thing should drive pretty much anything, and to nobody's surprise, that was really the case. I didn't want to flirt with this one, I didn't want to build my relationship slowly, so I went directly with the Headphone Amp on its 4-pin XLR jack, maximum power, and to nobody's surprise, the bass was not losing its punch authority. But most importantly, the sound didn't crash on my head, transforming from Susvara to Sundara, so that didn't happen. So it sounded damn impressive with the Headphone Susvara. Although I heard better amplifiers and better DAC amp combos, those were considerably more expensive, making the S9C an actual gem, so don't tell anybody except for your Head 5 friends. Everything else that I tried, be the Meze Elite, HD800S, Kennerton Rogner, RZH Charybdis, worked just fine. Maximum I could arrive would be a 50 out of 100 volume steps, so I had plenty of headroom, so no kidding, this will drive pretty much anything. The other thing which I want to discuss with my Asian brothers, which have a slight IEM fetish, is of course the noise floor. First of all, you should know that it doesn't have a gain switch, and that somehow suggests how much confidence Aune Audio has in their own designs, because it will be providing you maximum power on all those headphone jacks, so be extra careful when connecting ultra-sensitive IEMs on its 4.4mm output, which can provide you up to 5.5 watts of power. My current noise sniffers are the Hibizeta and some less majestic sounding IEMs, so I went directly for the jaw. I connected them to the 4.4mm output, which is basically the most powerful one. I went all the way up, and there was just a faint, barely audible noise, and it was not going up and down depending on the volume. That was actually quite interesting. When I moved to that 1/4-inch headphone jack, then the noise went away completely, and when I tried some other IEMs on all 3 headphone jacks, it was completely dead silent, and this is what I'm calling an IEM friendly unit. What's more interesting to the story is that I tried playing with those PLL settings, so I went from mode 2 to mode 1, and the noise floor went a little up, so if you want maximum performance and a very IEM friendly unit, just use mode 2 and never touch that button ever again. I won't talk too much about detail retrieval, because I do believe its dynamic range is already very high, so it will show you all the bad stuff, all the ugly stuff, all the good stuff happening behind your tracks. What's more interesting is how that information is being provided to you. As I was telling, it has that legendary flow, but still it doesn't sound as majestic like legendary sounding R2R DACs, but it tries to offer you a portion of that kind of sound, which is very good. Also, it gives you 2 options: to engage your magnifying glass and hear all and everything, and being a very sharp sounding unit, or it leaves you enjoying your tunes, be part of your music and be carried away by the music. So it has those traits, which is actually very interesting. I heard an oversampling Delta Sigma DAC that had those skills, that was the Ferrum Wandla, but it was considerably more expensive, which is a little bit unusual for the S9C having the same traits, which I believe is a very good thing. The Soundstage and imaging also felt quite impressive on this one, and I do believe that linear transformer and that fully discrete amplifier stage somehow freeing the sound, trying to leave it fly in all directions. So I won't try to gesticulate too much with my hands as I usually do, trying to explain how big is the scale, the soundstage, but I do believe it will be a real challenge outperforming it in this department, in the soundstage and imaging. Even with the Headphone Amp, those sounded quite open, deep and layered sounding all the time, and this is all you need to know about it. It's quite easy describing its frequency response, because the bass has the usual traits associated with fully discrete amplifiers, so it's very clean, it's resolving, it's transparent, but also quite lively, punchy, very fat sounding in a way. Traits usually associated with transistor-based amplifiers. So it works with a wider variety of music. You can listen to bass-intensive tracks, to smooth and relaxing music, and it will be changing its pace from impactful to slow and mellow. The mid-range will show its beautiful face after about 4 to 5 days of use, and when the unit is warm to the touch, the mid-range will get warm sounding as well. So it's good sounding when it's cold, and it's great sounding in the mid-range when it's warm to the touch, and the difference is quite big. But this is how fully discrete amplifiers are working. This is not something new. I can say that the mid-range, it's pretty natural sounding. You can feel that the vocals are touching your soul. You can feel that the violins have a longer vibration, a longer decay. You can feel that this instrument is made out of wood. You feel that electric guitars sound raw, slightly unpolished, and the vocal performance sometimes even touches your soul. So clearly it does mid-range pretty well. The treble is basically your standard ESS Sabre affair with a twist, because it never tries to be bright, edgy, it never tries to be digital sounding, it never tries to bring that listening fatigue. I have a few HiFi headphones in my office, and those are trying to emphasize a little bit the treble output, but that was never a problem on the S9C. Also, there is a slight difference between the Mode 2 and Mode 1. Mode 2 will sound a little bit more natural, a little bit smoothed out in the treble, which I do recommend with basically everything. In conclusion, this unit just might be my favorite DAC preamp headphone amplifier that you can buy at $700 or 760 euros. The component selection is just like that, and when you add some custom tidbits like a custom PLL, clocking, a metallic remote control, all the power, great Bluetooth range, and just an amazing sound, then it's really difficult complaining about anything really and finding that needle in the haystack. If you like to own a great sounding all-in-one combo that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, and that can work flawlessly with a pair of headphones or some powered loudspeakers, then S9C is a very easy recommendation to make, easily winning my highest gold award, and I'm looking forward to their next doings. This is pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like this video. My name is Sando, and I'll see you in the next video.